Okay, this is part 2 of Module 5A, and now we're going to examine the relationship between cancer risk and obesity. So at the end of this lecture, you should understand this potential relationship between diet, obesity, and cancer. Again, this is going to be much like the topics that were covered in Module 1, but now we're seeing how being overweight or obese could potentially contribute to cancer risk. And this also brings up the idea that if you could sort of decrease the prevalence of obesity in a population, could you also decrease the prevalence and development of cancer in that same population? So diet and obesity are really an emerging issue for cancer prevention. And this is, as you know, and was discussed before in this course, that right now about 2/3 of Americans can be classified as being overweight or obese. What this means, and what a lot of statistics sort of point to, is that excess body weight, poor nutrition, and or physical inactivity, they're really responsible for about 1 in 3 cancer deaths. And this is really striking because these are types of behaviors that you could sort of intervene, and potentially if you could cause people to, reduce their body weight, eat healthier, be more active, could you decrease the amount of cancer deaths in a certain population? Okay. And being overweight or obese, there's a number of different reasons why that puts a person at risk, a higher risk of developing cancer. And what science has shown is that these overweight and obese states have put people at risk of getting at least 13 different types of specific cancer. And it's because these states negatively affect your body in a number of different ways. The first is that they're going to modulate the ways in which your body's immune system is functioning. And those that are overweight and obese are typically in a state of chronic inflammation. And then the last lecture we pointed out before that inflammation is a sort of double-edged sword, that you need to have inflammation there to get rid of things like pathogens that might be harmful and have invaded, as well as getting rid of diseased tissue. But chronic inflammation over time can lead to the development of cancer. The other thing is that those that are overweight and obese are going to have elevated levels of certain hormones or proteins. And this is because a lot of time fat cells are going to be responsible for producing specific types of hormones or other sorts of molecules in the body that can go in and promote cell proliferation. Or it might be that those that are overweight or obese are producing less of healthy proteins or hormones that you would want in a healthy person. Okay. And as well as it might negatively affect how a body's cells grow and divide. So we all know that cancer is caused by abnormal cell growth. And so the combined effect of being overweight or obese is modulating the ways in which you're regulating how cells grow and divide. If that is off at any point, you are going to be at higher risk of developing cancer. And so, what are some of the specific mechanisms that have been suggested to explain the association of obesity with the increased risk of certain cancers? One is that fat tissue has been known to produce excess amounts of the hormone estrogen. High levels of estrogen have been shown to put a person at increased risk of developing breast, endometrial, or related types of cancer. Obese individuals have also been known for a long time to have increased levels of the hormone insulin or insulin-like growth factor 1 in their blood. This is a condition known as insulin resistance, and it also puts a person at high risk of developing diabetes, type 2 diabetes specifically. And the fact that insulin levels are higher or elevated can promote the development of certain types of tumors. So it can increase cell proliferation and directly cause cancer to develop. Fat cells also produce other types of hormones called adipokines. These can stimulate or inhibit cell growth. So for example, leptin. This is a particular type of hormone that's elevated or abundant in obese individuals. And it seems to promote cell proliferation. whereas a different type of hormone called adiponectin, which is less abundant in obese people, might have anti-proliferative effects. So here you can see sort of an issue where being obese increases levels of a hormone that can promote cell proliferation, as well as it can decrease levels of a particular hormone that can sort of suppress cell proliferation. So you're seeing both increases and decreases of things that are both harmful and things that are helpful. There's also this issue before, which we pointed out, of inflammation. So those that are obese are typically typically have chronic inflammation, which we know is associated with increased cancer risk. Okay. And this brings us to the public health perspective, so that by targeting the obesity epidemic, you'll also have this benefit of being able to decrease the associated increase in cancer rates. So not only could you decrease overall rates of obesity, but you'll also hopefully have the intended benefit of decreasing overall cancer rates. So in 2012, the American Cancer Society released their guidelines on nutritional and physical activity. So this is their way of saying these are the guidelines to live a healthier lifestyle. So not only those who already are overweight or obese, these are guidelines that they could follow to decrease their rates of developing cancer, but also healthy individuals. So it's perfectly understandable that you could be in a normal weight range but be living a very unhealthy lifestyle. So these are really guidelines for everyone to follow, whether regardless or not of your weight. And so the first thing is, one, to make sure that you are maintaining a healthy weight throughout life. This relates to the body mass index that you discussed in Module 1. So making sure you understand how does BMI relate to being either normal, overweight, and obese, and making sure that you can maintain a healthy weight so that you're in that normal range. Okay. The second thing is that you should make sure that you're physically active. So physical inactivity is extremely unhealthy, and we all know that for a number of reasons. So their guidelines state that for an adult, you should aim to have about 150 minutes of moderate, intense activity each week, or 75 minutes of vigorous, intense activity. So in the age of Fitbits and activity or fitness tracking, this is a really attainable goal. So you could make sure that each day you're, walking enough, you are maybe going for a run a few times a week to be within this range. Okay. The guidelines are a little different though for children or teens. They actually should be much more active than this and get at least 1 hour of moderate or vigorous activity each day. Which making sure that you have vigorous activity at least 3 days a week. So making sure you're getting out each day, you're not just sitting on the couch playing video games. It's much more important for children and teens as you're growing and develop to be much more physically active. Okay. The third thing is that you need to ensure that you're eating a healthy diet. And this means that you should have an emphasis on plant foods in your diet. So increasing the amount of fruit and vegetables that you eat and decreasing the amount of meat. Okay, so you should make sure first that you're choosing foods and drinks that are going to support your maintenance of a healthy weight. So if you're underweight, are you eating enough to get into that healthy weight range? If you're overweight, are you decreasing the amount of food that you're intaking to get within that healthy range? Okay. You also want to limit how much processed or red meat that you intake on any given day. So increased amounts of red meat consumption or meat consumption in general have been shown to be unhealthy and contribute to your overall risk of developing cancer. So limiting those in your diet will be important. You should aim to get at least 2.5 cups of fruit and vegetables in your diet each day as well, and choose whole grains over refined or processed grain products. Okay. And the last thing is that if you choose to drink alcohol, you should ensure that you limit your intake. And this means that for women, it should be no more than 1 drink per day, and for men, it should be no more than 2 drinks per day.